Today, we're going to begin a 6-week study based on this book. By the way, you can get this book in a Kindle edition online if you'd like to, if you're able to do that, or if you want to order one. We're not going to be going chapter by chapter from this book, but doing a study based on this book. And it'll be for 6 weeks. Sacred Marriage by Gary Thomas. The subtitle, What If God Designed Marriage to Make Us Holy more than to make us happy? And we're going to do something a little unique in this. We're going to ask our teenagers to join us in this study. Consequently, we're going to move from the coffee shop to the fellowship hall for this 6-week study. Now, we're going to continue to offer the other adult study. It'll be in here, or y'all can move into the coffee shop, Mike, if you'd like to, whichever y'all would like to do. And but after 6 weeks, we get to go back. But all the equipment that we need, thanks to Tommy Taylor, all the equipment we need is in the fellowship hall as well. And so we'll be moving into there, and want to encourage you to come and be a part of that. And if you know of someone who's not a member of this church that you think would be blessed by a study like this, then be sure and invite them. You've got 2 weeks to do that, okay? So just want to encourage you to come. Parents of teenagers, I want to encourage you to ensure that your teens come to this study. It will be of benefit to them, okay? We're not going to encourage them to get married, in the next 6 weeks. But if they intend to get married someday, this is going to be a benefit to them. So we want to encourage you to encourage them to come. So we'll be starting this the 2nd week in October, and it will go through 6 weeks. We're choosing this time period because we'll get it done before Thanksgiving. And so want to just encourage you to be a part of that.
When you say teenagers, are you talking about high school, or are you talking about 13-year-olds?
Are the 13-year-olds in the junior high group? Okay, then let's just get them in there as well. Yeah, I think the junior high kids in there will be fine. All right, I know they don't call them junior hires anymore, but showing my age. Yeah, that'd be great. We want to encourage them to be in there as well. Okay, next slide. The great Baseball Hall of Famer Yogi Berra died this past week. He was 90 years old. And as great a baseball player as Yogi was, he was perhaps as famous, if not more so, for his yogi-isms as for his baseball talent. And here are some of his famous statements. Baseball is 90% mental and the other half is physical. Some of these you have to kind of think about for a moment. A nickel ain't worth a dime anymore. You can observe a lot just by watching. That's one of those duh statements. You better cut the pizza into 4 pieces because I'm not hungry enough to eat 6. Dwell on that for a moment. The last 2 are the really ones I really want to emphasize. If you don't know where you're going, you might wind up someplace else. And probably his most famous one is this: when you get to a fork in the road, take it. But the question is, of course, which fork do you take? Last week, we looked at this unavoidable life principle. Direction determines what? Anybody? Destination. Next slide. Direction determines destination. Whatever road you're on determines where you will end up. The path you choose to follow, the financial path, the relationship path, career path, marriage path, moral path, whatever part of your life you're talking about, the path you choose to follow determines your destination in all these different areas of life. You cannot take this fork in the road and expect to get to the destination where this fork is leading. The direction you choose to travel, not your intentions, not your hopes and dreams. The path you choose to follow, the fork in the road you decide to take determines your destiny. Now the question many people ask is, which fork do I take? That is, which path do I choose to follow? And this is such an important question. Nobody wants to wake up in their 30s and wish that they had taken a different path in their 20s. Nobody wants to wake up in their 50s and wish that they had taken a different path in their 30s. The reality is you don't get to go through the teen years again. And can we all say amen for those of us who are not teenagers? You don't get to go through your 30s, your 40s, even your 60s, but once. Life is difficult enough without complicating it with hopes and dreams about the future, but traveling a different path that takes you in a totally different direction. Should I marry this guy? Should I marry this girl? Should I remarry? Should I take this job? Should I take this promotion? These and so many more are such crucial questions we make in this life. You know, we talked last week about getting lost when we're driving. If you get lost driving, you waste a few minutes. If you get lost in life, if you choose a path that is not headed in the direction you say you want to go, you can waste years of your life. Sometimes we're trying to choose the best path to take. Sometimes we're trying to choose which path to get off of. If you've never been married, how do you know if this is the right person to marry? You know, the majority of divorces in this country occur between first-timers. And I'm convinced that's because either one or both chose a marriage path that was not sustainable. Or one had a certain destination in mind for their marriage, but chose a person who did not share that destination. Now, here's a yogi-ism that I created of my own. If you've never been married before, you've never been married before. That is, you have no experience in that. And yet, choosing the person to marry, or even whether or not to get married, is one of the most important decisions you make in life. Now here's where I want our focus to be this morning. The words of the wise man, the ancient king of Israel, King Solomon. Wise people see trouble coming and get out of its way. But fools go straight to the trouble and suffer for it. Let's say that together. Wise people see trouble coming and get out of its way. But fools go straight to the trouble and suffer for it. Again, this time with thieving. Wise people see trouble coming and get out of its way. But fools go straight to the trouble and suffer for it. We've all been in those conversations with people who are telling us how their lives are falling apart, and before the story is finished, you know how this story is going to end. And you tell them, didn't you see that coming? And sometimes the response is no. But oftentimes the response is, well, yes, but. I went to high school with kids who dated each other. They fought all the time. They were constantly breaking up and getting back together, breaking up, getting back together. And then you hear they got married. How do you think that turned out? Didn't you see problems down the road? Well, yes, but. Or perhaps you've had occasion to ask someone, don't you think you're drinking too much? Or don't you think you're spending too much time at work? Well, yes, but. Wise people see trouble coming and get out of its way. But fools go straight to the trouble and suffer for it. Two people, two responses, two outcomes. What's the difference between the two? The wise person understands that life is connected, that there is cause and effect, that there is a relationship between yesterday, today, and tomorrow. The wise person understands that life is linear. That is, next slide. That is, if you're at point A and you're going to point B, if you go to point B, chances are pretty good you're going to go to point C, whatever it is. Too many people make too many decisions based on their gut feeling, based on emotion, based on unrealistic dreams and expectations, based on bull-headed determination, based on what someone else is telling them. If a decision is worth making, it's worth asking, what's the best thing for me to do? What's the wise thing for me to do? What's the right thing to do? And here's a novel idea. What would God have me do? The fool, the naive person, thinks that life is disconnected. Today is about today. And tomorrow is about tomorrow. And today doesn't really impact tomorrow. I can have intention A, but take path B and think intention A will get me to where B is taking me. If I take B, I'm going to end up with what my intention is. I said that incorrectly. If I take B, I'm going to end up where A is taking me. It doesn't work that way, does it? Why is it so difficult to see how foolish and how impossible that is? The wise person sees trouble coming and gets out of its way. You see the trouble, you get off the path. You see the danger, and you take evasive action. You seek the best response, and you do it. But the fool goes straight to the trouble and suffers for it. You've probably heard by now about the two John Jay football players over in San Antonio who assaulted an official during a game a few weeks ago. And their defense, which is probably going to get them off, our coach told us to do it. Really? You didn't look at this situation? It never crossed your mind? You know, we could get in trouble for this. We could get in big trouble for this. And we've all done it. Yeah, Mom, you're right. What are you going to do? I'm going to keep going. The fool thinks If I drive full speed toward the wall, when I get to the wall, I won't hit the wall. Don't you think you should? Yeah, probably. But it'll all work out. And here's what we Christians do. We go to church, and we hear the preacher say something, and we get convicted because the preacher's really good. And we leave the church building thinking, I really need to quit drinking so much. Or I need to end that relationship. But you go out of here and you do nothing. Why? Because it made you feel good, it made you feel spiritual, just because you felt convicted that you should do something. Conviction serves no useful purpose if it's not connected with action. How many times do you think I've been convicted? I need to lose weight. But I saw something posted this last week. I decided to lose 10 pounds. I've only got 15 more to go. The wise person sees trouble coming and gets out of its way. Ironically, the wise look foolish to most other people. The wise stop miles before they get to the wall. The wise don't wait till they're on the verge of disaster. They make changes before they get there. And they avoid that self-inflicted pain. What do you mean you turned down that promotion? You do know there's a big pay raise with that, right? You broke off your engagement? Look at her. You're going to give up that? The wise look foolish to most people, which is a message that, of course, you see all throughout the Bible. The fool goes straight to the trouble and suffers for it. And amazingly, their response to their suffering, the suffering that they're experiencing, how could God let this happen to me? Here's how. There you go. If you jump off a building, you're going to hit the ground and it's going to hurt. Everybody with me? This guy is in a world of hurt right there. And he's not hit the ground yet, but it's going to happen. Because direction determines destination. One of the critical things in this regard is that there are points at life in which there is no return. There's no going back. The path that you will be on at that point will be the path of consequences, and there will be no getting off. When your life begins to unravel because of a path that you have chosen, all your options about how to deal with that are bad. You will suffer for it, as Solomon says. Why? Because you saw the danger and you kept going. Because you felt convicted and you believed God would just work it all out for your good. Because after all, I love God. And you kept walking straight toward the danger. But there are so many people on this path. We can't all be wrong. Jesus said that the path that leads to destruction is a 6-lane superhighway. Now, you have to know Greek to know that's what he said. But that's what he said. The path that leads to destruction is a 6-lane superhighway, and it is crowded. And when someone said 6 months ago, you know, you really ought to, you said, yeah, I should, but you didn't change a thing. You kept going. You young ladies who are not yet married, if you can understand my words, you need to pay attention. And I'm not picking on the young ladies. This is where we are right now. Young ladies, when you're pregnant, that is not the time to evaluate, do I really love this guy? It's not the time to ask, am I ready to be a mother? You have much better options before you have sex with the guy. But if you're pregnant, all your options are difficult. And when you're pregnant, you're suffering for it. And you know what? It's your fault. Everybody listening? Everybody hear me? Guys, if you get a lady pregnant you're not married to, you're going to suffer for it, and it's your fault. If you find yourself in that situation, God won't love you less. Hopefully your family will love you and we will still love you. But you will deal with the suffering. You cannot violate a clearly defined, God-ordered principle and not experience the consequences. You cannot change the principle by banging up against it. All you're going to do is hurt yourself. When you're an addict, that's not the time to think, I need to be more disciplined. The opportunity to be disciplined is gone. And now your options are not good. You can confess to your family and watch as the pain envelops those you love. You can choose to not confess and watch as the secrets and the lies continue to multiply. There was a time when you had good options. When someone said to you, I think you're drinking too much, or I think you're spending too much time on the internet, or I don't think she's good for you, and you said, yeah, you're probably right. And you did nothing. Nowhere is this principle more clearly evident than in the area of relationships. Author Andy Stanley says that we should never evaluate a relationship based on where it is, but on where it's going. Relationships are always changing. They're either growing or they're dying. And you evaluate a relationship on where it's going, not about how you feel about it in the moment. It'll work itself out. Never works when it comes to relationships. Is everybody listening? It will work itself out. Never, ever, ever, never, never, ever works when it comes to relationships. If you're married and you find yourself thinking more and more about someone else other than your mate, your relationship with your mate is changing. It's moving, and not in a good direction. And more dangerously, your relationship with the other person is also moving. And it's too late to evaluate the relationship when you're in a hotel room in another town with a person you're not married to. At that point, all your options are very poor ones. Look today at where your relationship is headed, because today, if it's not already too late, today your options are much better. He's stopping by your office to chat more and more. And then he wants to go to lunch. It's just lunch between friends. Remember what we said last week? This is a disconnect that gets us into so much trouble. People see things as just events. It's just lunch. It's just innocent flirting. It's just sex. No, it's not. It is a path. And it's going somewhere. And if you don't get off that path, you're going to hit the wall and you're going to shatter your life and harm people you love. Now I need to change gears here for just a moment before I begin to wrap this up. When I talk about seeing the danger that lies ahead and getting off that path, I'm not talking about the danger we may see ahead of us because we follow Jesus. The Bible assures us that along with all the blessings we receive as followers of Christ, that there will also be struggles and challenges and dangers and temptations. And the only way to avoid those is to stop following Jesus. So obviously we're not talking about that. Why we don't avoid the challenges of being a disciple it is really a multi-layered discussion that we don't have time for this morning. But suffice it to say that if we want to follow Jesus, we have no choice but to face the challenges that come with that path. But I find it ironic that we often seem more willing to get off a path that will lead to suffering for Jesus than we are to get off a path that is certain to lead to suffering and heartache, far more painful for ourselves and those around us than anything we could ever experience in following Jesus. Which fork do you take? Well, I want you to take this with you this morning. 4 words that I think you will be helpful to you. The first word is action. Action. You have to do something. You have to end that relationship. You have to stop having sex with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, no matter how old you are. I'm not just talking to the teenagers. No matter how old you are. You have to get a job that takes less time away from your family, that's less demanding on you emotionally, physically, and spiritually. The wise person takes refuge when she sees danger. He does something. Action. The second word is sacrifice. You have to give up something. And typically, most of us are not very good at that. Not only are we not prone to sacrifice something we want, but we expend a lot of self to accumulate stuff we don't need. Action almost always involves sacrifice. And that's why some of us will leave here today saying, yeah, he's probably right. But it's so hard. How am I going to explain to her that it's over? I've worked so hard to get where I am. My kids, my husband or wife will just have to understand, which means that you're more willing for them to sacrifice than you are willing to sacrifice. The path you choose to walk often reveals not what, but who you're more focused on. Self, rather than the people in your life. The third word is embarrassment. As you make decisions based not on today, but on where you're headed, people are going to think you're a fool. And so the embarrassment may not come so much from within you, but what you face, the ridicule you might face from others because of some hard choices that you make that they don't understand. The fourth word is relief. Someday, At least this is my hope. You will be able to look back on this day as the day you got off a path that was leading you to danger in some area of your life. And rather than finding yourself 6 months from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, asking yourself, why didn't I get off that path I was on? You'll be asking, what if I had not acted and gotten off that path I was on? What a relief it will be to know that you made the right choice. And I want to urge you to make that choice today. It oftentimes seems a lot easier to keep going in the direction of danger. But that's only for the moment. Wise people see the trouble coming and get out of its way. But fools go straight to the trouble and suffer for it. Are you on a path you need to get off of today? Today is your day.